And now, TSPN is proud to present Insights on Leadership and Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Insights on Leadership and Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, and I am a business and life coach and certified joy seeker. And this evening, we are talking about wellness. Wellness is, as many people would think, many different definitions, from how you live your life to being healthy in your body. I have a couple of definitions that I pulled off the internet. One was from the Medical Dictionary for the Health Professions and Nursing, and it says that wellness is a philosophy of life and personal hygiene that views health as not merely the absence of illness, but the fullest realization of one's physical and mental potential. And that's what I want to talk tonight about, is what is wellness? What is it the same as well-being? How do we have a sense of wellness in our life? So with me tonight are three experts in the field of health and well-being, and they all have a different field. I have Nancy Warner, who is a nurse and lactation specialist, and I have Ann Winterton, who is a certified dietitian. And I have Kimberly Freeman, who is a Reiki Master. So tonight we are going to explore a lot of different areas of wellness and find out more about what that means. So let's start by talking about wellness itself. My sense is wellness is taking care of the body, mind, and spirit, that it's not just the body, although that obviously that's our vehicle through which we experience everything. But you have to take care of everything, right? Right. So let's find out a little bit more about what you guys, who you are, and what you're going to be bringing to the table as we get further into the discussion. So Nancy, how about you? You're my old friend and hiking buddy from way back. Let's hear a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you got to be doing what you do today.
Well, it's great to be here, Roberta. I've been in nursing for 40 years. My specialty has basically been pediatrics. I've worked 20 years in the hospital and 20 years in a clinic. And just recently I became a certified lactation counselor. And it's been an interesting journey being in the medical field. In the hospital and the clinic, I do a lot of counseling of new moms and babies now, and helping them out when they first have a baby and helping them with breastfeeding. And I also am working sort of on call at this clinic that I've been working at for a year, and that's doing vaccines and doing a lot of advice, parental advice to these new parents.
So you're over in the Reno area, right?
Yes, I am.
And have you always lived there?
No, I'm originally from the Bay Area. I was born and raised in San Francisco, South San Francisco, went to University of San Francisco, got my bachelor's degree in nursing. And 7 years now of being in Reno.
That's great. Well, so are you officially retired from the nursing piece, or are you playing it officially retired?
I'm trying to retire.
Okay.
But I love what I do, and I really don't want to let it go yet. So I'm sort of slowly backing off, and this lactation thing is working out pretty nice.
It's a nice bridge.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, welcome. I'm so glad you're able to be here tonight. It's great. So, Ann, how about you? What's your background? We detect a little bit of accent in there.
A little bit of accent.
So you're not a California girl, huh?
No, I'm originally from North Carolina. That's where I went to school for dietetics, and I took the board exam to be registered dietitian in North Carolina, but very shortly after that I moved to Australia with my husband. He's Australian, and so I practiced a little bit over there.
What part of Australia?
Brisbane. Brisbane, Australia. Yeah, a little bit hotter. than what we're used to. Then we came back to California, and I started to work inpatient for Sutter. And I saw a lot of issues with diabetes, really uncontrolled situations, and so I decided that I wanted to start working with some of these patients before they get to that point. So I became a certified diabetic educator, and now I work for Sutter Medical Foundation.
It's great. I can really appreciate that because in my past I was a wellness coach for Sutter, also doing working with diabetics as well as high cholesterol patients. So I know from that level a little bit of what you've probably run into a lot.
Yeah, the preventative side's a bit nicer than some of the things that can happen later on down the road.
If you can catch it early.
That's right.
Well, welcome, Ann.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it, especially because it was last minute notice. So.
Yeah, by day and a half.
I know. But I was glad you were able to make it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Kimberly Freeman, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am local. I live here in Ione. Have been here for 11 years. I have myself been in the medical field for 35 plus years, and decided that it was time for a little bit of a change. Started experimenting and visiting life coaches myself, getting some coaching, and found myself very drawn to Reiki. And over a period of a few months, having a couple of sessions myself, doing some research online, I decided that that was really what I wanted to do. I've always known that I should be a servant of some sort, just never knew exactly how that was going to work. So doing Reiki, I absolutely love it. I am now a certified Reiki Master. That took about 6 months to become. I started, my first training was in February, my second training was in March, and then I just had my third training in September.
Great. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And you have an office then in Amador City, is that correct?
We do. I belong with a wonderful group of ladies, Amador Holistic Center in Amador City. We are located in the Amador Hotel. We actually are having our grand opening on the 18th and 19th from 10 to 6. Anybody that wants to come and see us.
A little plug. Well, it's a nice facility. I was there yesterday. Thank you to you.
Yes.
And a very nice suite of offices up there. So
we're very
congratulations
excited.
to all of you. That's great. So, so let's get a little definition of what you feel about what is wellness. What's wellness?
For me, what wellness is the balance between work life and home life, your spiritual self, your personal self. It's all of it. It's being healthy and hiking, if that's what speaks to you. Getting in touch with the spiritual side of yourself. So for me, it's all of it. It's everything. And it all has to be in balance. Because if it's not, then we start walking sideways.
Well, considering the name of you work for the Holistic Center, that's an appropriate response, that it's all of those things, right? Absolutely, I concur. What about you, Ann? What's wellness to you?
I think it's more quality of life, how happy you are at this point in your life, what goals you have. Sometimes, maybe you may have a chronic illness and you're not really sure how much time you have left. So I think that the whole idea of that being quality and being what you want out of life is important.
It's so interesting because typically when we hear wellness, at first we think our bodies.
Right.
I mean, that's what most people think of right away. And yet both of you two have said, no, it's bigger than that. It's more that bigger picture of our life as a whole.
Definitely.
How about you, Nance? What do you think?
I agree with them.
Good answer.
I do believe it's all connected. It's psychological, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's physical. All of those go hand in hand, and especially with working with children and families. There's a real connection when you have a sick child that you bring the family is very involved, and if the child's out of balance, then the whole family's out of balance. And so
is it the reverse as well, if the parents are out of balance?
Yes. So, and it is about quality of life, big-time quality of life. If they have a chronic disease or has cancer or whatever, you still can have a wellness if you spiritually have that connection. And I've seen it. I've seen it in the hospital. I've seen it in the clinic. So, but there, it's not just physical. It's all of that. It's spiritual, emotional. What's going on with the environment, everything. So, if you have a balance, you'll be okay, even if you're sick.
Yeah, it's interesting, going back to some of my wellness coaching days, that the clients that I'd work with who had that positive attitude or had a different approach to it were able to deal with their own diseases in a much more effective way. That if they were depressed or if they had, if they saw no light at the end of the tunnel, that in itself held them back from moving into a different place. It's amazing how powerful that having a perspective really is. So, well, this is a good start. It's great to have 3 different perspectives to hear more about as we get further into the program, because I think that as we ask more specific issues about your areas of focus, I think we're going to see some more connections as well. So before we get into more of the details about what each of you do and how you do it and what you see, we need to take a little commercial break and give an opportunity to thank all the people who support TSPN TV for what we do and the programs we have. So don't go away. We're going to be right back in just a minute after a short commercial break.
You're watching Amador County's local television with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Welcome back to Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, and we are talking about wellness this evening. So let's jump right in, and I want to start first with Nancy. Nancy, you are our semi-retired pediatric nurse and
Lactation counselor.
Lactation counselor, okay. So obviously you work a lot with children and with parents of young babies. What do you feel the top 3 things a person should do to achieve and maintain wellness in children?
Well, the first thing I wrote down on that was vaccinate. Vaccinate.
That's a political hot button, isn't it?
It truly is. And the other one was, I say, good diet and exercise, and being together as a family, taking time to really spend that extra time either being in the nature together as a family or family. But vaccinate's number 1.
Now, so why? What have you seen? What do you know about that? Because there are a lot of people who, especially these days, feel like, no, you don't want to vaccinate.
Well, it is one of my pet peeves because I was around before some of these vaccines were that we didn't have, and I saw the diseases. And I worked in the hospital and took care of. We had a lot of different kinds of meningitis, and we used to have a room full of kids with meningitis. And 2 vaccines that we have right now, a lot of the doctors have not seen those diseases because of those vaccines. And, the side effect, if they came down with it, death was the worst, but then there would be hearing loss or brain damage. And I have a lot of parents that come in and ask, what do you think? I said, I think you need to vaccinate.
Well, I know I'm a Rotarian, and one of our big projects around the world is polio, ending polio, and trying to eradicate the polio virus from the world. And as a little girl, I mean, we know people who had polio and how horrible that was. To think that we're really this close, less than 1% of children in the world still. It used to be over 1,000 cases a day in the world, and now there's less than 1. But one of my fears is that if they stop vaccinating, that it could come back. And it's true with these other childhood diseases as well.
Polio is one of them that's coming. That is coming back, and measles is another. I don't remember what the other one is. Pertussis, that's a big one.
The
which is the whooping cough.
Yeah.
And the kids nowadays going into 7th grade, they have to be up to date on their tetanus, but it's the Tdap, which is the pertussis in it, and that I've seen pertussis. I've taken care of it, and if it's a baby that gets it, they could die. I mean, we took care of them in the hospital. So pertussis, measles, polio is coming back into the picture because people are not vaccinating, and measles.
So I think we heard that one loud and clear. Vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. In fact, that was one of the things I was going to say is, it seems like a lot of younger mothers in particular not vaccinating because there's a fear that it can cause some autism.
They've done studies, and it doesn't cause autism, and I think that's where a lot of parents are paranoid because of what they've heard. I've just seen what happens when you don't. Okay, the two drugs, one's Hib and one's Prevnar, which has probably been around for 20 years, and Prevnar's probably been around 15. And we used to get H. flu meningitis and pneumococcal meningitis on the floor in the hospital. And those kids, if we caught them and we could treat them, they'd make it. But there was a lot of them that had hearing loss, and a lot of them that who had brain damage.
Well, I have a personal situation with that. My son got meningitis when he was 8 months old, was in a coma for a week, and we were not sure what was going to happen at the end of that week, whether he'd have hearing loss or brain damage, or it was very, very frightening, and I obviously very thankful that he was okay, but, there is a reason for taking care of things.
You got it.
Yeah. What impact do you think having good care as a child has on their adult life?
I think that it's very important. I think in this day and age, as hard as it is, I think that every little, I call them little toots, but every little child needs to have a feeling of security. And I think if you don't get that as a child, I think that life is hard enough as it is. And I just think that if we can make our little ones feel secure, in whichever way we can do that, I think they're going to be better adults and weller adults, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, if they have it as a child.
And it's interesting, feeling secure as a child doesn't mean giving them toys and lots of stuff, right?
It's the closeness. I don't know. My kids, when I was working and the kids were younger, a lot of times they would always want to be close to us at nighttime, and even it was sometimes in the middle of the night when you really don't want them in bed with you or whatever. But, I finally figured out, I said, if this is what they need in order to feel secure, I learned to get them out of the bed, but at least closer to us so I can have my space, to feel that security. And I think in this day and age, it's even harder than it was 20 years ago. So that's, every family has to figure out what's going to work for them. But these little guys have a tough world ahead of them. And, that love and kindness and that secure feeling comes from the family. It comes from above. I do believe that also. But I also think originally it comes from home. And so whatever you got to do in order to make our little guys feel comfortable, and it's a tough world out there.
I remember back to being a new mom and lots going on around and financial issues and concerns, and feeling sometimes like, oh my gosh, how can I deal with this all?
Right.
And yet here's this little toot, as you call them, saying, Mommy, please just pay attention and hold me. And, sometimes it felt in the moment that was difficult, but once I did, it was good for me. It was also good for them.
That's why I really enjoy the breastfeeding aspect, because, I know it's really good nutrition-wise and everything, but I tell them new moms all the time, I said, I'm into this because I want you to be able to have that bonding and that connection. And there's sometimes that the breastfeeding doesn't work. My oldest one was born with a cleft lip and a cleft palate, so I wasn't able to breastfeed him. What I told those new moms, I said, don't think that because you're not able to breastfeed that you're not going to be able to have this bonding. I said, go home and spend skin-to-skin time with that baby. And I had one mother, when I told her that, she bursted into tears. She goes, nobody ever said that I could do that. And I says, you know what, that's not only is that making the mother feel really good, wellness, it's also making the baby feel secure.
Yeah.
Okay? So I say that's why I tell the parents, I'm in this for you guys, you know, so that you can build them up and encourage both mother and baby, you know?
Yeah, because as a parent, too, so often we feel like, oh, am I doing the right things? Is there something else I should be doing?
Right.
You know, how do I make the best life for this little human being that I brought into the world? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I tell parents not to be so hard on themselves. I think they try too hard. Just go with your gut. And I say this all the time. Go with your. When we have new parents come in, I says, you know what? Everybody's going to tell you how to raise this baby. The in-laws, Facebook, the books, the friends. I says, you know what? Nobody knows their baby better than you do. I said, you go with your heart. You're going to be just fine. And I've had many parents come back and say, you know, that's really good advice. I said, you're kind when your mother's giving you advice, or your mother-in-law, and you smile and you listen, and then you go with your heart, and you'll be fine.
You know, I hark back to all the stories we've heard, and true stories about orphanages or situations where children are just put in a room and there's no human contact, there's no interaction, and potentially, I mean, they literally can die from lack of love. It is that powerful,
yes.
And the more we remember that, I think it's an important message. But I think about, what about adults? You know, do we need that love the same about
our master?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah, that love. How do you feel that what you do contributes to a person's overall wellness?
Well, first of all, most of the time, if it's in the clinic, I'm working with kids that are sick, which of course affects the whole family dynamics. I think when I saw this question, my thought process was, with compassion and empathy, okay, to the patient that's sick and the family, I think that if I can show compassion and empathy and support them the best way I can, at least get them in the right direction and getting back to their health, wellness. Mm-hmm. And that's not just the physical aspect of it.
No.
Because when you have a sick child, it affects the whole family. Mm-hmm. The parents, you know, other siblings, whatever.
And the relationships between all the individuals within the family.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about you? How do you maintain your own well-being?
Well, I like hiking, and the reason why I like hiking is I like being in the mountains because I like being in nature. And it's a space where I can really meditate and have quiet time. And, I'm on the diet, the good nutrition. But I need a place where I need to go where I can kind of connect with my inner self, okay, and my spirituality. And if I didn't have that, I don't know how I could have lasted as long as I have in this profession. Okay.
So lots of interaction and drama and activity going on, you find a need to create your own space and have your own time.
Well, the older I get, I definitely need it more. But it's just nice to be out there and away from the cell phones and all the Facebook, all that good stuff. Sometimes I don't bring the phone with me. I just need to have quiet time. Mm-hmm. And it's good because it does help my spirituality and my emotional aspect. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when you come back from that hike or from your walking, you feel what?
Hi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting.
H-I-G-H.
H-I-G-H. I love it.
Because
so we're going to take a break right now and come back and give a few more minutes to our commercial sponsors. But we'll be right back with more on Insights on Leadership in Life. Thank you.
You're watching Amador County's. And now back to Insights on Leadership in Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Here we are back with Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, and I have with me this evening Nancy Warner, Ann Winterton, and Kimberly Freeman. And we are talking about wellness and what it means to be healthy, to be living with a sense of well-being. And in the last segment, Nancy made a comment about love and how important that was for a child to grow up with that. And so love is the perfect segue to start talking about Reiki. So you are a Reiki Master.
Yes, ma'am.
A fairly new one, which is wonderful, so that's great. And I know until yesterday, I was a little bit clueless about Reiki. I'd heard about it, and I think a lot of people have heard about it, but we really don't know what it is.
Right.
So can you share more about what Reiki is?
Sure. Reiki is a form of energy healing. It is something that comes from the higher source, whatever that is for each individual, and it comes from above through me into the clients that I'm working on. It can be a hands-on treatment or hands-off, depending on what the client is more comfortable with. It's a fully clothed treatment, and it's a treatment that usually lasts about 60 minutes for me to get a really good feel for what's going on in the client. But it is energy healing that heals everything that could possibly be going on. It works a lot with your chakras, getting your chakras aligned, getting them in balance. And my experience with Reiki is 1,000% love. I mean, it just when you have a Reiki session, especially like when you have a Reiki circle, you have all those hands on you, you walk out of that feeling like, oh my gosh, I am so loved. It is just amazing.
Well, I have to say, when you gave me the gift yesterday of a Reiki session, and it was my first time, and the experience that I have, and I shared this with you then, was that I just felt like you were holding me. I mean, that was what I felt like, even though it was maybe just holding, having a hand on my arm or something of that nature. It just felt, I could feel, it felt good, for a lack of better, more technical explanation of it. So what about, but there's a lot of people I think who are a little bit skeptical or feel that it's a little woo-woo. So how do you respond to that?
Everybody's entitled to their beliefs.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Everybody experience Reiki is a different experience. You felt the love, you felt the holding. Some people feel a sense of calm when they have a session. Some people really don't feel anything at all until a couple days later. Some people walk out of the session feeling like they've been just lifted up, like this garbage that we carry around with us has just been taken off their shoulders.
So you do it once and it's all done?
No. That would be wonderful. But it's like any other type of therapy that you go to. It may take a few sessions, depending on what we have going on in our lives. As I referenced earlier, we as humans have a tendency to hold on to our garbage. We don't let it go. And when we do that, it blocks our own energy flow, and we can't heal ourselves. I mean, when you look at the skin heals itself. You know, you get a scrape and it heals. The insides of our bodies can do that too, if we give it a chance. So the energy helps to do that. It helps to release those blockages so the energy can do what it needs to do. The wonderful thing about Reiki is it works in conjunction with Western medicine, with physical therapy, with chiropractic. It works with everything, and it just helps it speed up the process.
It's interesting, the energy, from a physics perspective, we are just a bunch of swirling energy, right?
Absolutely.
Configured in a little bit different way for each of us. So it makes sense to think about having the ability to move the energy in a different way. I think about the studies they've done with physics and what's it called? Quantum physics. Thank you. And how our thoughts changes what happens with the molecules, right? And what's going on at that very, very basic level. And so if that can happen, that makes more sense to me that when I hear about Reiki now, that like, okay, it's happening on a concentrated level where you're purposely trying to make something change a little bit.
It's about intention. It absolutely is. It's feeling that love. It's sending that love from the higher power through myself into the client. It's all about intention.
Well, I know as a life coach, one of the things I work with people a lot is self-love, right? If you can't feel love for yourself, oftentimes it's going to hold you back in all those other areas, and oftentimes it's the garbage we're holding on to. So I work with it on a different perspective, but with the same hopeful outcome. And going back to what you were saying too, Nancy, in terms of love and how important that is for a child or an adult. I mean, we all need it.
Yes, we absolutely do.
To get that love. So I noticed on your website there was this thing called the 5 Reiki Principles. So can you share a little bit more about what that is?
Absolutely. The 5 Reiki Principles were something that Dr. Maiku Usui, which was the founder of Reiki in 1922, he discovered that during one of his meditations that he was doing. And the 5 principles are: just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will be grateful. Just for today, I will do my work honestly. Just for today, I will be kind to every living thing. For me, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Because one of the things is it's just talking about today. It's taking those baby steps. Because sometimes looking at 2 weeks from now is very, very frightening for somebody. But if you just look at today and just work on those things for today, it's amazing the changes that you can make in your life.
Yeah, I think of it as this moment, right? Because every moment we have a new choice, a new opportunity to make a different choice and move a different direction, go create new things if we choose to in this moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to play a big piece as we get into talking about nutrition and your diet. Is you don't have to worry about yesterday or what you did. Just worry about right this moment. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that I love about the Reiki principles is it relates a lot to like the law of attraction, where whatever you put energy into, that's what you're going to come back with. So if you're angry all the time, you're going to have anger come back at you. If you worry all the time, you're developing more worry. So if you just, I will not be angry, I will not worry, it puts that focus in the right direction.
I got a great fortune cookie one time, and it said, worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. And I kept that in my pocket for literally years. It was during a rough period I was going through. And, it's like, that doesn't serve you. So what can serve? Being grateful, being honest, and being kind to every living thing. I loved these principles when I read them because they were just human. They were about being a good person.
Plus, it's very positive.
Absolutely.
It's all positive.
Yeah.
Positive stuff.
Yeah.
I really love that. How do you maintain your own personal wellness?
It's taken me a while, but I have finally got myself into a wonderful routine where I make sure that I get at least my hour every day to meditate. Then I read. I like to read a lot. I spend as much time with my family as I can. My parents, I'm fortunate enough, they live across the street from me, and my daughter lives down the street, so I'm very fortunate I can spend lots of time with my family. And I try to eat right. I'm not always the best at that.
Just for today.
Just for today, yeah.
No judgment.
No judgment.
That's right.
So I work really hard to take care of myself, and I always try to give nothing but love, because for me that's what wellness is.
So you give it to others but yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The meditation, that's me giving the love back to myself. Taking the time to study, to strengthen my knowledge and my skills, that's giving the love back to myself. Because what I give back to myself, I can then turn around and give to my clients. And it just is this wonderful circle that I get to participate in.
I love it. What's your vision for yourself?
My vision for myself is hopefully at some point I can connect with a organization of some sort, like Sutter Amador Hospital or something like that, where I could actually have Reiki be part of a patient's medical treatment.
Ah, so bring it more into the mainstream.
Absolutely.
And so really, I hate to use the phrase, but legitimize it
Yes.
in the general population's mind.
Yeah, so that people aren't so afraid of it. If their medical doctor is saying, you know what, there's this wonderful treatment that can help you with your chemo, help you not feel so sick after a treatment, why don't we give it a try? They're going to be much more open to giving that a try because their doctor said it might be something that might help them.
Absolutely.
So.
I was talking with a gal this morning who's grieving over a sister who she lost early in her life, and I suggested to her Reiki, and she said, that's really interesting. My support group just suggested it as well.
Oh,
so
yay!
I said, maybe there's something to this.
Yay!
Yeah, so that's nice, too, to know that it is being recommended in some of these other types of areas that gives you an opportunity. So thank you for all that love.
Thank you.
And we are going to be coming right back in just a minute after we take another commercial break.
You're watching Amador County to Insights on Leadership in Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
And welcome back to Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, and we've been talking this evening about wellness. It's an important topic because it incorporates not just our body, but it's our mind and our spirit and everything we do to stay in balance so that we can have the best life we can be. And with us this evening, we have Nancy Warner and Kimberly Freeman, and last but not least, Ann Winterton. So, and we are going to wrap up our evening with talking about nutrition. And you are a registered dietitian, that's correct? So tell me, what does wellness mean in terms of diet?
Well, I mean, it's different for every person. But what we hope is that they're able to meet their needs, and maybe they have a disease and they're using that nutrition to help improve their health in that regard, maybe to have more energy, maybe to help your children grow. It really just depends on what that person has in mind, and that's how I like to try and focus when I see a patient for the first time. What do they want? You know, what's important to them? What are their goals? Instead of telling them what I want them to do. I can do that all day, but I'm not going to do that.
It makes a difference. I did the same thing. Yeah. You start with what do you want?
You care about.
Yeah, what's important to you and your health and your health goals. I think that it's a more powerful starting place rather than you telling them what to do, right?
Right, or you're validating them. I care about what you think, because how do you really expect them to listen to you if you're not really interested in what they want to change or what they want to work on?
So aren't there some general ideas, though, in terms of diet that are important to focus on? What would you say to most people if you had to focus on
as far as
general diet health? Yeah,
I'd say variety is really important. I'd say stay away from any diet that tells you to completely exclude a food group. I'd say that you can still have those little special things you like every now and then, as long as you understand it needs to be occasionally. But 80% of the time, if not more, focus on making healthier choices. Remember, you are an example to your children and the people around you. So if you want your children to eat healthy, it's important to do it yourself.
I know, I hate to admit it, but I know a number of people who don't make their children, they feed them hot dogs and French fries, and they say that's all they'll eat, so that's all they get. That makes me crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, on occasion, at a party or something like that, I really don't think that it should be, no, I don't want you to have that, I don't want you to touch that. But I think in general, they need to understand, why is it important that you eat your yogurt. And why is it important that you have fruits and vegetables? You give them a reason for it other than...
So why is it important?
well, you want to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables because you want a variety of vitamins and minerals. If you just eat apples all the time, you're just going to get what apples have to offer. We often say in terms of fruits and vegetables, eat the rainbow, eat a variety of colors so that you'll get all of those nutrition. And so, and then as we get older, fiber becomes really important.
Yeah.
So eating appropriate vegetables.
What are some of the things that have fiber in them?
So fruits and vegetables, of course. Sounds like I'm kind of harping on fruits and vegetables, but it's true. And then, of course, anything whole grain. So that's why we're always pushing folks to move away from processed breads and grains.
Absolutely.
So we want more of a whole grain because you're going to get more fiber in that way, and you're going to get a variety of fiber. So it has a couple different health benefits that way.
So what kinds of things do people need to eat to have fiber in their diet?
Well, they need to eat their fruits and vegetables. They need to eat whole grains, such as oatmeal or multigrain bread. There are lots of different grains that are available. A lot of things coming back that used to be popular a long time ago, like barley. If you remember the barley
absolutely.
soup, now it's like it's the new thing. And I'm like, no, not really. Quinoa. There's lots of things like that are out.
Quinoa is a big one recently.
Oh, very popular.
Very popular.
And that reminds me to be careful. Just because a food is popular doesn't mean it's the be-all, cure-all. It's just popular at that moment. It has its benefits, but
again, balance.
Balance.
My brother
and variety.
has a favorite saying: everything in moderation, including moderation.
Exactly. I like that
Yeah.
because I do really agree that you are going to have times where you're going to make some different sorts of choices. As far as what you eat and drink, but in general, overall, we need to be taking into consideration that what we eat does impact our health. And so if we're just eating hot dogs and French fries all the time, we're only getting what those hot dogs and French fries have to offer, and
which may not be a lot.
not very much.
Right.
Not very much.
It may fill the belly, but it doesn't.
No.
Empty calories.
Yeah, empty calories. So, I think about the diet at our bodies is how important we need to feed our brain. We need to feed all the cells within our body to think properly and to act and have energy to be active.
Right.
So all of those things diet can make a difference in, right?
Very important, and when we, hear studies about children and in neighborhoods where maybe it's one of the reasons why actually they started the free lunch program, because you want these kids to come and be able to take tests and be attentive, but if they don't have energy on board and they don't have nutrition on board, they're not going to be able to do
Right.
that.
Now, so many kids don't get any breakfast in the morning.
That's right.
They get to school and they have nothing in their system, and they haven't had anything since
The night
6
before.
o'clock the night before.
Yeah.
So they probably will go to lunchtime, which is
with
now
nothing.
18 hours, right? Without
Right.
anything in their bellies.
So a lot of that research is the reason why you have, especially in certain areas, the free lunch program and free breakfast program, and different things in place to try to meet the needs of those kids. So that
One of the other thing that I find is interesting, our Rotary Club put together, last year we focused on after-school snacks and snacks that you can give the kids to take home for the weekends, because we found, or at least we heard, that many kids get fed during the week at school, but then they go home and they don't have enough to get them through the weekend. Or same thing with the summertime. They're during the school year they're okay, but then they really run into problems during the summertime when they don't have the nutritional benefits.
That's
and
right.
You think about what it does on a long-term basis. I mean, I can only imagine feeling hungry every day, but then you think about does it do potential damage to
It's
them?
detrimental to growth and development. You need protein. You need vitamins and minerals for your body to grow and to form, and for you to improve your higher neurological function. And so if you're not having that, it is going to impact them over time. And we see that in test scores with these kids when you compare kids who are, having breakfast and you're monitoring their nutrition to those who are not.
And I would imagine you saw that as a pediatric nurse as well,
Yes.
going through.
Plus, it's also, if they get proper nutrition, they'll heal faster.
That's
too.
right.
That's a really good point.
That's right.
Kids and adults.
Yes.
Yeah. Very, very true.
Well, I'm also a diabetic educator, and the whole healing is an interesting topic because we find that you're trying to get these folks controlled, because when you're not controlled and your blood sugar is too high, you also don't heal.
Right.
So that's another important
Now, what
aspect.
about staying hydrated? You know, how important is that?
Oh, it's very important as well, and it also it varies based on your age. So younger kids need a little bit more per kilogram because of their growth factor and because of their level of activity. And then as we get older, it decreases a little bit. But we all need to stay hydrated.
What's the impact if you don't?
When we were talking about neurological function, it definitely impacts that. One of the things which you may have seen, people will almost behave as if they have dementia,
Yes.
and those sorts of symptoms when they're dehydrated, because you
I've heard
can't
that
think properly anymore.
With older folks, that it is one of the potential causes for
It is.
older
Mhm.
folks who aren't just drinking enough water. Such a simple solution potentially.
Yeah, they'll come into the emergency room and often be diagnosed with a different sort of condition that they don't have due to simply we're dehydrated.
Wow.
And it also
Well, you
worsens
see a
dementia.
difference. You know, when we used to have kids come into the hospital and they were dehydrated, they were unresponsive. In
Mhm.
fact, when I talked to parents on the phone about this is what you need to watch for dehydration, and they said, what's it look like? I said, if the child's laying there and not doing anything, you need to be in the ER. The baby needs to be an IV fluid.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So in the moment, and the interesting is they hydrate them for at least a half hour to 45 minutes, and boom, they're
Sounds very
resurrected.
That's so interesting.
It's amazing.
So, as we think, we only have a few more minutes, and I really would love to wrap it up here. So, diet is clearly important to develop the body and neurological functions as well. So, and your ability to cope with things, I would imagine. So
Right.
Psychologically, it's going to have an impact, right?
Right.
So love is important, and to shower ourselves with and each other with
Yes.
with love.
Yes, it's very important to give to others, because then you get back.
So it's a two-way.
Mhm.
It's definitely not just a one-way direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what about you, Nance? What's your final words on the subject here?
Well, I really like the love. I'm very much into touching. And the last thing I would say is that since the flu season's starting up, or will be starting up, and we're starting to get flu shots, a lot of parents will ask me, well, how do you keep from getting sick, even though I take the flu shot? But I say to them, you know what? I believe that if you keep your head in a good place, you probably won't get sick.
So be grateful, have a positive attitude, spread the love, eat well,
Exercise.
Yes, we've got it going here. So, I just want to say thank you all to each of you.
Thank you.
The hour goes
This
so
is
fast.
awesome.
I just wish we had more time to talk. But Kimberly Freeman, thank you. Ann Winterton, thank you. And Nancy Warner, thank you all for being here this evening on Insights on Leadership in Life. See us next month. Thank you.